Hello and welcome to another episode of the Electric Norwegian. I'm Mats. Maybe we can do two things at once. But first, the car is now at 55%. Now I want to get it to 60%. So I'll find a fast charger and do that. And while I fast charge, I'm gonna fill this one up. And then we can get on our merry way. Normally I've gone for the 150 kilowatt, but car's been garaged in a cold garage. It's currently negative 7 degrees Celsius and the battery is stone cold anyway, so I'll get crap charge speeds. Let's plug in the 50 kilowatt charger. Plan is to compare a little bit between other cars, particularly maybe the PSA product we just drove, the Citroen. Take some of the same route because the conditions now are a bit similar. It's almost as cold. How far you can get and the range and the consumption numbers and stuff like that, while we have a nice conversation about everything else, probably. Well, that was a waste of time because 55%, but 55% with an icicle on it. So the charger indicated 59%, which is probably true because some of the capacity is not available at the time being. It will get there as the battery heat. And I was there for 5 minutes picking up a coffee, and in that time I didn't charge one iota, but it did take 5 kilowatt hours though. The heater was running, so the car was heating up, and probably also heated up the battery. So, you know, I got a bit more heat in the pack, and that's a good thing after all. So it wasn't entirely wasted, even though it might seem like it. It's really a nice day. It's cold, but it's clear, and the roads are somewhat dry, depending a little bit on where you are. I've been heavily criticizing, particularly the PSA group, for that's Stellantis, Peugeot, Citroen, and now also Fiat and so on. It's not very efficient, which is sad because there could have been so much. You could have gotten so much more out of them. Granted, this is a Model 3 without a heat pump or all of that jazz. So it's not the most efficient car in the entire world either. But looking at what Kia Hyundai managed to do with the Ioniq, which was fantastic, they have made a car that's just literally unbeatable in efficiency. I know the range isn't the best in the entire world, but it's still just, relatively speaking, doesn't really consume any energy moving about compared to anything else, Teslas included. I've owned one, I've driven Teslas, and I follow Ioniq owners. I look at the consumption numbers and just no. Maybe a rear-wheel drive Tesla can match it. What did they make right? And the strange thing is that the Ioniq isn't even built on a dedicated EV platform. It's a shared platform because it also counts as a hybrid. Look at that, for instance, the Leaf there. It looks like a pig, but it has a reason to look the way it looks. It doesn't matter for the users and for the owners. Well, it depends on who you ask. If you're a private person, it probably matters less because you can go around the problem, and in your daily life you don't need 500 kilometers. No matter what the diesel mafia tells you, very few people need 500 kilometers of range in their daily life. But if you're a fleet manager, and if you're running a fleet of vans, for instance, or cargo vans, or you just have a company car, you need the range. And then if you have a Maxus or a Peugeot e-Expert, which is both are vans. They deliver 3 or the Enyaq van. They're built on the same platform. And then you have the E-Expert, which is just a Peugeot Expert, just converted. So they have a front like that, for instance. It's just inefficient. And I mean, the 75 kilowatt hour version of that, relatively big battery pack after all, doesn't go any further than the Maxus, which has a battery pack of 50 kilowatt hour, 52 or thereabout. And that means that, and it's cheaper to buy, partly because it has a smaller battery pack. And that means that for a less amount of money, you get a car that goes just as far, if not further in some situations. Actually, I believe that the Maxus can relatively easily outrun the Peugeot, even though the Peugeot has a bigger pack, simply because it's more efficient. And that means that it can do more miles at the kilowatt hour, so in the end of the day it costs you less to run. Granted, we don't talk about a lot of money here, but the point still stands. We have a high consumption number. We have a consumption number of 287 watt hours per kilometer, and of course we just started driving. It's cold outside. The consumption haven't settled yet. We're at 50% now. Consumption is 246, so a bit high, maybe. Yeah, a bit high, but I still hope it's gonna average out. Oil companies, and particularly Shell, it's just buying up charge providers. Bought up 2. I think they bought Charge Master, didn't they? Or New Charger, what it was called, and then they bought something else recently as well. And I was thinking, why would they do that? Because apart from very few places in Norway, very few people make money charging electric cars, simply because there's not enough electric cars around yet. There's not in Europe. It's quickly growing, but let's be honest, they have to put up something costing around $100,000 US, and then maybe $200,000 US when it all in with new you need energy supply, and you need the digging, and you need the permissions, and you need the new transformers and all that stuff, the backbone setup, and then you have the chargers. So it's expensive stuff to set up, and that's partly explains why some of it is so very expensive to use. Like for instance, Ionity, and of course you can say Tesla is very cheap. Yes, they are. They haven't set up their charging network to be a moneymaker either. It might become if they open it for some other manufacturers, because then they can pay on the side. But anyway, why is Shell buying up charge providers? I think the answer is very simple. Oil companies can see where this is going. All the funding and the pension funds and all the equity funds, and that actually owns the world and runs things and pours money into things, they're pulling out of oil and gas and coal quicker than you can say coal, probably. Why are they doing this? Well, they're doing this because they're calculating climate risk in a different way than they did just 5 years ago. And it's not necessarily out of the kindness of their heart or the fact that they're so very obsessed of, yes, we're going to save the world, because they're interested in making money. But when you calculate in climate risk and you see that investing in, for instance, oil in the Arctic, and you realize that potential of destruction is very big, then you pull out of that. And then, well, I haven't fueled petrol for a long time, and in Norway I think the sale of petroleum products have fallen by what was 300 or 400 million liters for the last 3 years or 4 years or something. This isn't entirely updated numbers, but still. And we're also electrifying the ferries in this country. Found it. I had to actually look it up. An average ferry, if you electrify it, cuts consumption of diesel or bunker oil or whatever they're running on by 1 million liters every year for one ferry. And we have planned to have, by the end of this year, around 60 electric ferries running around in Norway. We have a lot of fjords and stuff. That's 60 million liters alone, on top of the increasing electric and plug-in cars that's sold. In Europe, you see the plug-in, which includes battery electric, I think it's around, just jumped from 3% to closer to 10 or something last year. I have no idea how about the drop in petroleum sales in Europe, but if you see what you can do in a small country like Norway, we have now around somewhere between 300,000 or 400,000 electric cars on the roads, I think. Point is that at some point you have to ask yourself, oil production is huge, it's massive, it's in the millions upon millions of liters of oil every year. But when sales of plug-in cars continue to accelerate, particularly in Europe and in China, and also probably in the United States and in North America in general, at what point do the oil producers start saying, wait a moment, this doesn't make sense, because I'm making a product no one wants. You just end up with stranded assets at some point. Where is that threshold? How many million liters of diesel or petrol, oil, I mean, this is 500 million, a billion liters of oil. And where is that threshold? The oil industry can see this clearly. They also know that they're under pressure from the plastic industry to cut production of new plastics and go more to recirculation and recirculate what you already have in the loop. So they're going after the chargers and the new energy products because they want to keep some hand on the steering wheel of energy. Unless of course they do like the Danes and just go all green and just drop petroleum and oil industry altogether. Ørsted did that, and they're among the biggest in the world on the wind. Been on the road for almost 45 minutes now. Consumption is 235, and I think that's really half bad considering it's 10 degrees. It's 10 degrees negative outside. So let's see what the trip computer says, shall we? It estimates 123 kilometers, and we're at 44%, so that's not really bad, all things considered. I'm sure the new models with the heat pump can get further, but for all intents and purposes, this is a used car now, and it's gone almost 55,000 kilometers. So you know, that's not bad on 40%. Of course, this is an estimate of 255 watt-hours per kilometer average. Energy is very nice. If you have historic numbers, you can work on those, and you know how much energy you need for most of the year. There will be variations, but for instance, my apartment, I know that in the summer, with a maximum 10 kilowatt-hour battery pack, because that's what my maximum is in the summer, I can run that for 24 hours without using any energy of the grid, because and that's on a heavy consumption day, because I don't use very much energy in the summer. In the winter time, if I had a 25 kilowatt-hour battery pack, or basically a first-gen Leaf, I could run the apartment all my wake hours without using energy from the grid. We're now at 30%. I've been on the road for 1 hour and 18 minutes and done 89, almost 90 kilometers. Consumption is 216 watt-hours per kilometer, so yeah, looking good, looking good. The computer estimates we have a range of 112 kilometers left, so plenty to get home, no worries at all. So here we are then, for all intents and purposes. 160 kilometers, 2 hours on the road, 207 watt-hours per kilometer. So that means that we're left with 59 kilometers, we're now at 9%. No, we're left with 59%, we're now at 9%. So that means that with a full battery, in theory, I should have been able to drive this loop twice, come here with 0%, plug the car in, and all is good. So that will give it a range in these wintry cold conditions on mixed driving like I've been doing of 300 kilometers, and that's not bad at all. That's not bad at all. There's an 18-inch aero wheels, by the way, just mentioning that. So yeah, there you go everybody. Great car even in the winter. So that's it. Do push the like button, and if you didn't, you can push the other button if you want. Do subscribe, it's always nice. And take care, wear your masks and all that jazz, be careful out there, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.